Okay, Roscoe, I know you've been waiting for that Kong for how long? Yummy, yummy, yummy. I've been waiting for so long to record this video. It's been on my to-do list since the beginning of my channel, and today I'm finally sitting down here to record it, and I'm honestly so excited. So today I'm going to be telling the story of why we got Roscoe in the first place, why we chose the Maltipoo breed, and why we even decided to get a dog. If you're new, my name's Julia, and this is our Maltipoo Roscoe. We got him 1 year ago last January. So to start off the story, I'm gonna start when I was around 4 years old. To give you a little context, my parents are both allergic to cats, and if I were to pick a favorite animal, I mean for most of my life, it would definitely be a cat. When I was around 4 years old, a stray cat came to our house. She wasn't really stray, but the neighbors that had her weren't really taking proper care of her. She was just the cutest little thing. Her name was Kisses. We didn't ever let her come inside the house because my parents are allergic, but at that time we were living in a house that had a screened-in porch, so we just let her come in there. So we kind of took her in, we started feeding her, and soon we noticed she was pregnant. We set up a little bed for her, and she had 5 kittens there. I was in love with these kittens. I helped raise them. I wanted to keep one so badly, and being a 4-year-old, it was so hard when we had to say goodbye. So then on my 5th birthday, I got my first official pet, which was a betta fish. I named her Rosa. She was a red fish, and I loved taking care of her. So it's pretty obvious a fish doesn't really take much work. All I had to do was just dump in her food each day and then just kind of watch her swim around. It wasn't the most rewarding experience, but I still enjoyed her as my first pet. So it wasn't about until I was 7 years old that I really started wanting a dog. So this was my first diary I ever had. I've been journaling ever since I was 7 years old. So also at this time, my little brother was born. I really want a dog. I feel like everyone has them. I guess my little brother is my dog for now. I've tried my stuffed animal dogs and imaginary friend dogs, but it's really not the same. Here, let's get it out for you because I think it's a little bit stuck. Can you even get the treat in there? So around this time, we met some people who had just gotten a dog from the shelter that was a boxer mix puppy, and they told us they had just had a batch of puppies and he had siblings that were in the shelter. I've never seen my mom so serious about getting a dog ever, and we even drove to the shelter. But as we opened the door, my hopes were completely crushed because the last puppy was being sold to a couple as we walked in. Oh, it was so devastating. I was so disappointed. So ever since then, a dog has just been kind of out of the picture. When I was younger, we lived in a small cape with a really tiny backyard, so my mom didn't feel like a dog was a good option since he wouldn't have much space to run around in the backyard. So fast forward a little bit, and my friend gets gerbils. I went over to her house one day and we both were playing with their gerbils, and I just got so attached to them and I realized I want gerbils. So I ended up convincing my parents to get gerbils. They also don't require a ton of work. At this time, I was 8 years old, so we drove to the pet store and I got 2 little gerbils. I did all I could to care for them well, and they were also really great pets. So over the course, up until about a year ago, I've had 6 gerbils. I got siblings each time because gerbils don't like being alone, and they've been really fun to care for, but again, they don't take a ton of responsibility, and I didn't really get to play with them like I would a dog or cat. So then when I was 10 years old, we moved to a bigger house. One of the biggest reasons I was excited about moving was that my mom's biggest excuse was about to be crushed. We now had a huge backyard and a pretty decently sized house, and so now she couldn't complain about not having a big yard for the dog to roam around. My dad has always kind of sided with me on the dog thing, and it's always been my mom who's not really been on board, and my mom just would always make up these excuses of why we couldn't have a dog. So it's just natural that the moment we move into the house, she develops a new excuse. This time, it's that my brother is 2 years old and he's not potty trained yet, so she doesn't want to have to deal with potty training both the dog and my brother. So the time came, my brother was potty trained, but a dog never really came up. I kept asking about it from time to time, but it always circled around the same thing. My mom didn't want to have to do all the work for the dog. She's already taking care of my brother, she's homeschooling both of us, she's doing all the chores around the house, and she did not want to have a dog on top of all of her other responsibilities. Money was also an issue, and at that time, my parents didn't feel like they could really afford a dog. Okay, so now I'm moving on to kind of the funny part of this story. I'm gonna call it the bunny phase. So I'm 12 years old at this point, and I'm driving home from a camping trip, and all of a sudden I'm just pondering the idea of getting a dog and having a pet, and all of a sudden it just like strikes me. A bunny! Why have I never thought of this before? A bunny, it's soft, it's cute, I can play with it. It's not a cat, it's not a dog, but it's somewhere in between. I was like, this is the answer. I should get a bunny. So I mentioned it to my parents, and they tell me that if I write a proposal, like a persuasive essay sort of thing, about why I should get a bunny, they'll consider. So me being the determined person I am, the moment I get home from the camping trip, I just drop all my bags and I get to researching. Roscoe, I'm gonna take off your little sweater because I think this might be getting a little bit hot. Also, if you're enjoying the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. That would mean a lot. Roscoe, here you go. Does that feel better? Now you can take a nap and not be so toasty. So I developed an obsession. I spent every moment of my free time doing all this research about bunnies. I interviewed a friend about her rabbit, getting her advice. And so I developed this bunny proposal that I have right here to show you. I decided I wanted a mini lop rabbit. And as you can see from the photo, that is what it looks like. It's pretty adorable. I present this proposal to my parents and they read it. And here I am like pacing the room. I'm so anxious. Like, what if it's a no? I don't know if I can deal with a no. It's with heavy hearts that they told me I would not be getting a rabbit. I started crying. I was really sad, and I just couldn't believe that after all this work I'd done, I hadn't done enough to convince my parents. But the next thing my parents said kind of raised my spirits a little bit. They told me that they never realized how much work a rabbit was and how much money one costs too. They were very impressed with all the hard work I'd poured into this bunny report. Maybe the next step would be thinking about a dog. I was like half sad and half like over the moon. And so my parents told me that the goal was to maybe have a dog by my birthday, which my birthday's in March, and at this point it was around the fall time. So as time went on and my birthday drew closer, I was doing some research about dogs, but my family seemed to kind of hop off board, and my birthday came and went by, and the dog was nowhere in the near future. And I was pretty sad, and I was thinking, are we ever gonna get a dog? Are we ever gonna get one? I mean, we obviously did. Oh, I love you. I'm trying to keep him up because you don't want to watch a sleeping dog, do you? Let's move on to the next phase I had. This next phase I went through, I'll call it the cat phase. And you're probably like, what? The cat's out of the picture, right? Both my parents are allergic, so we're obviously never getting a cat. So one day I'm just sitting at my computer and I'm like, are there such things as hypoallergenic cats? Are there? So I just start doing some research and I discover this thing called the Siberian cat. They're hypoallergenic, at least to some people. They look a lot like Maine Coon cats, which, if you don't know, they're my favorite cat in the world. So I showed my parents this cat and they were automatically pretty interested. They didn't know such thing existed, and neither did I until about 2 minutes ago. So I discovered that these breeders were extremely hard to find, and I did end up finding one in our state just by coincidence. And so we emailed the breeder just asking, are these cats really hypoallergenic and how much do they cost? So the breeder got back to us. They said that their cats cost $1,500. I mean, there's no way I can convince my parents this time. You're probably gonna think I'm insane at this point. I looked up every single animal shelter in our state looking for a Siberian cat, and what did I find? Nothing. Nothing. There were tons of cats, but none of them were a $1,500 Siberian cat. And so we were talking about it more as a family, and we were thinking that this cat really does seem like a good fit for our family. And so we took a jar and we labeled it Cat Fund. So we put any spare money we had into this cat fund jar. So the hope was we were going to accumulate enough money, I don't know how we would, but we were going to get this cat. So at this point, the cat on the breeder's website had given birth to some kittens, and so we were going to schedule an appointment to go over there and visit one of the cats to make sure my parents weren't allergic before we made any big decision. And my parents had already told me if they had any symptoms, they would not get this cat because they did not want to have to take allergy medicine. So we just started pondering this more and really thinking into this decision, and I started thinking like, boy, $1,500, like that's more money than dogs. If my family's gonna spend this much money on a cat, then we could afford a dog. We just realized as a family, there's no way we could justify spending that much money on a cat, especially since there are so many in need of homes that are in shelters. I mean, we're a middle class family, so it's not like we just can throw around $1,500 for this like expensive cat. That's just not our lifestyle. So we soon realized that this was out of the picture and that no, we were not going to get a Siberian cat. I know you're groaning because you don't want me to pick you up. So just like that, I hopped right back on board on all my dog research. So if I were to pick a dog, ever since I was little up until about 2 years ago, it would have always been either a black lab or a golden retriever. But as I got older, I realized golden retriever, hands down, that's the dog I wanted. The personality, it's loving, it's compatible. Then my mom broke it to me. She didn't want a dog that shed. On top of all the other things, now I had to find a dog that didn't shed. That would mean we can't get a golden retriever. So I did do some research about dogs that didn't shed, but I don't know. I think I just had the golden retriever cemented into my brain and I just didn't want another dog. So I just put more work into it. I thought if I can really show my responsibility to my parents, then they just might let me get this dog. I decided to put together a plan and map out day-to-day chores to prove to my mom that she would not be the only one doing all the work. So not only did this have me take the dog for a walk every single day, but it also had me vacuuming the entire house every day so my mom wouldn't have to deal with this dog hair. I put so much work on myself in this plan and I just was not being realistic. I mean, I have school every day and how am I going to be able to vacuum an entire house every single day? So I did finally realize that the only way I could get a dog was if I found a dog breed that did not shed. I looked at Yorkies and Westies and standard poodles and Labradoodles and, you know, all those kind of dogs. Every dog I looked at, there was always some problem. Either there were no breeders anywhere near us, they were too expensive, I didn't think they were cute enough, they didn't have a good personality with younger kids, and none of these dogs seemed to do the golden retriever justice. So meanwhile, I was looking all through shelters to see if I could find a dog that didn't shed, and I came across 2 dogs that I fell in love with on the shelter website, and I did realize, yep, they do shed, but I thought maybe if I can just plead my heart out to them, they'll let me get one. I don't know why I thought this would ever work. I showed them the pictures of the dogs. They kind of brushed it off. They said, no way, we're not getting those. This did kind of hurt my feelings and I felt very sad about this. So in a frenzy, I wrote a puppy proposal this time. It is kind of funny now that I look back at it. As you know, I want a dog. I've wanted one for my whole life. Back in the fall when I handed you my bunny proposal, you both said no, mainly because of the cost and the responsibility the bunny would require. You told me that if we were going to spend so much money on a bunny, why not get a dog? A dog has been something I've always wanted. I remember back when I was 7, pleading for a puppy, it was always no. I remember when I was 10, pleading for a puppy, it was always no. And still now, I'm pleading for a puppy, and it's still a no. And I feel like giving up and facing the reality that I'm never gonna have a dog. I'm very dramatic in this, so just be aware. I've done so much research. I've watched countless dog training videos, looked up at least 50 different dog breeds and their characteristics, researched how much it costs to have a puppy, looked at tons and tons of dog breeders, puppies for sale, scrolled through multiple animal shelter websites. I've even considered starting a dog walking business to gain experience and earn money to maybe put towards a dog one day. At the end of the day, I feel like I've wasted my time. Why am I even doing this research and putting so much effort into this when we're not even going to have a dog? Okay, then I start getting into the costs of these 2 dogs at the shelter, and I will show you this picture. I was really wanting one of these 2 dogs right here on the page, but you know, we didn't get them obviously. So it's kind of funny, I actually never showed that to my parents. There's no reason for them to read it. I kind of wrote it and then I'm like, this is silly, I'm not gonna give it to them. This is not supposed to convince them, it's not going to, and why bother? Okay, this next part is called The Day That Changed Everything, and honestly, it did. So one day I was still researching dog breeds that didn't shed. So my friend came over that day. We decided to go for a walk around town because that's one thing we really enjoy doing together. So as we were walking, we met this lady who had 2 dogs. One of them was a bigger dog and one of them was a little adorable dog. It was golden color. It had like little curly hair, had adorable little black eyes, and he was so calm and so nice. I looked at the dog and I thought it looked like a Maltese because I had been researching them earlier that day and it shared a lot of the same characteristics. So I asked the lady, what's this dog? What's this dog breed? And she said it was a Maltipoo. And I will say, the first thing I thought was, wow, she's really cooing over her dog. She's calling her Maltese a Maltipoo. I thought she was just giving like a little cutesy nickname for her dog. I had no idea that was a thing. The moment I got home, I typed this into the browser, completely misspelled. I was like, what is this dog? Is it a Maltese or is it something different? So when I originally recorded this segment of the video, I completely forgot to mention a few key details to the story. So that's why I'm recording this part on another day. So through my research, I discovered that the Maltipoo was not another name for the Maltese, but rather the Maltipoo was a mix between the Maltese and the Poodle. This meant that the Maltipoo was also a non-shedding breed. This was the driving factor that led me to do all the other research I did about the Maltipoo. I found out that they have a relaxed, affectionate, and playful temperament, that they have generally good health and are good with kids if properly trained. And I mean, the Maltipoo is just such an adorable dog. How can you resist their little face? So I was pretty excited from all the research I'd done, and so when I did share my research and I showed my parents pictures of these little guys, they immediately fell in love and were quite interested and wanted to know more. The fact that the Maltipoo is a non-shedding breed was especially appealing to both of my parents. I moved on to looking up breeders, and remarkably I found one in our own state. We live in Maine, which is a super small rural state, so the fact that I was able to find a Maltipoo breeder so close by was very lucky. So the night before I went to a 5-day overnight summer camp, I had a long discussion with my parents about getting a Maltipoo. This was the first time they were acting semi-serious about getting a dog, and so I really wanted to know, is this a possibility and can we get one? I remember sitting on the couch and them telling me they really loved this breed and it seemed like such a perfect fit for our family. So at this point my parents had saved up enough money so we could actually afford a puppy. My parents were convinced I could handle the responsibility of owning a dog. They were both very impressed with all the research I'd done about the Maltipoo and felt that I was at a good age to own a dog. So that night, butterflies in my tummy, I asked my parents, can we get a Maltipoo? I desperately wanted to know so that I could go to summer camp at ease. They told me that they would do some final research while I was at camp and I would know whether or not we were getting a Maltipoo by the time they picked me up 5 days later. But they did tell me that the answer was likely a yes. At summer camp, I was so excited and I couldn't stop thinking about a Maltipoo. So when my parents did come to pick me up from camp, I wanted to know immediately. So my parents told me that they did some final research and that they contacted the breeder and that they both decided that we were going to get a Maltipoo. I was over the moon, filled with happiness. I was so excited that we were finally going to get a dog. In the end, my mom told me it was really the fact that she wouldn't have to clean up dog hair that won her over. I still remember the feeling of disappointment when they told me that it would be a 12 to 18 month wait before the puppies were born. Another year till we'd get a Maltipoo. How could I possibly wait that long? So at the end of July 2019, we put down a deposit to get a Maltipoo. Even though I knew we were getting a Maltipoo, as the months went on, I started to grow really impatient. We assumed that the puppies would be born late summer to the fall of the next year, and it just seemed like such a long time to wait. My parents assured me that even though it was tough, I just had to be patient. We were getting a Maltipoo, and the wait would be all worth it in the end. And let me tell you, the wait did pay off. Didn't it, Roscoe? Yes, I love you so much. We're on to the last chapter of this story. Probably the most exciting one, right, Roscoe? the last chapter pretty much of our story is Christmas Day 2019. Probably one of the best days of my life, honestly. So on Christmas morning, after all the presents were unopened, my parents pulled one last parcel from the tree and they gave it to my brother and I, and they said, "We have one last thing, open it." I had no idea this would come out of the parcel. And the moment I saw this little face, I just started crying. There were 2 dog toys that came out of the box with it. And I just was like, I know what this means. Our puppy has been born. So this says, "Merry Christmas, Julia and Miles. I hope you don't have plans on January 24th because I or one of my 4 brothers will be ready to come to your house. I can't wait to meet you." So this is the picture of one of the puppies. At this point, we didn't know which one was going to be ours yet, so my parents just picked a photo of one of the dogs and put it on here. But I think this did end up being Roscoe, which is kind of funny. So he had been born in November. He'd been born way earlier. It had been way less of a wait. So when my parents got the email, they were just shocked because they were not prepared for this whatsoever. They didn't realize that they'd be born so early. Did you just growl? It was just so close to Christmas that they thought, what if we just wait and surprise them? So I essentially found out we were getting a dog on Christmas Day, even though I'd already known. But it was as if I didn't know, because I didn't know it was coming at all. So it was around this time in January that I decided to start a YouTube channel, just documenting raising Roscoe. At that point, I had no idea it'd come to what it is today. I couldn't be more grateful for all my subscribers, and I just have so much fun making videos. That completes the story of how and why we decided to get Roscoe in the first place, and just everything leading up to that, starting from when I was 4 years old. Before putting this video plan together, I honestly had no idea the story was that complicated, and I realized that I have wanted a dog for a long time, and I'm just so grateful that this little guy is sitting on my lap right now. He brings so much joy into every single day, and I'm just so glad he is my little Roscoe. So if you made it this far, thank you. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but I do feel like I've been recording for quite a long time. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Again, thank you so much for watching, and Roscoe and I will see you in the next video. Bye!